Hello, this is Alex at IES, and in this video or videos, I'm going to be going over editing the homepage. I'm on this Cyberschool 2.0 or alexdev.cyberschool.com that I'm kind of working on, kind of updating our help site so it's a bit more modernized, a bit more current. I'll be using this homepage to kind of show you all the different things that we can do with editing this homepage. And so, um, as you can see, it's probably the most current template that we have with all the different modules. Um, so all these floating kind of gear symbols we're seeing flying around, the different sections that I can edit, and you may not be seeing a lot of these or any of these, which is perfectly fine. You're free to skip ahead to different parts of this video, but I'll be going over each of these in depth, pretty in depth really. And so we've added all these different modules because we feel like the homepage is kind of like the hook of your site. It's the landing page for your site. So it's the first page that every one of your visitors will be seeing. So we want to make it as kind of pop as much as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, I'm going to be talking about the primary navigation settings first. And primary navigation really dabbles with, um, this particular area that we have here. So you'll see I have a mega menu here. This training videos drop down is a mega menu. Same with this written manual one. It's the same one actually. It's not any glitch that we're seeing there. But yeah, it's the same menu because I have written documentation over every particular aspect of Cyber School, as well as a video documentation over just about the same things. And so the way we configure a mega menu is in the primary navigation settings. So let me go ahead and open this up. And whenever you click on one of these settings, you'll get a little window that pops up just like this, called a modal. And you'll see the layout of this is currently set to mega, so it's a mega menu. But I can change that. You probably have like default, and it's just like a standard drop down. Let's save and see what's going on with that. Okay, so it looks a lot different now. You'll see the text is really transparent there because over in styles, the navigation text color is set to light. So let me go and change that to dark. So you see it's darker now. So yeah, we have that kind of power when we give you these settings here. It's changing around the colors, changing around the kind of layout of this. So now you'll see training videos is just this huge drop down. Same with written manual. Okay, so I had it set to mega before just because I like the way it looks better. Mega menus are a little bit trickier to work with in that if you have a drop down that has another drop down to it, it's not going to show as well. So I would say definitely be careful with those. Let me save that. And okay, now you're seeing it populate that way. Let me go ahead and change that back to light, navigation text color light. Hmm. Guess it didn't change anything with the mega menus, but that's fine. The layout really decides, default is just the standard drop downs. Full will make this full width. It might look the same as default. That's perfectly fine. Mega is for mega menus. Image only will only display the logo. So let me go ahead and show you what that's like. Okay, so now you see just the logo there. The slogan, the IES Cyberschool 2.0 is gone, um, and it's just a standard drop down there. And then slice header. This one's a bit trickier to describe, so I'll just show you. Okay, so now you see we have the actual logo there, and the header is completely sliced. So now it's this entire space is being shared with the logo, the slogan, the title, as well as the navigational elements there. So that one is really, for special case templates where like the logo is actually displaying the title and the slogan, etc. So let's go back to Mega. Okay, so we also have the setting that says Mega only links per column. And this is basically how many links are going to be displayed in each column. So you'll see in training videos, I have up to chapter 20. So there's 20 elements in this drop down here, and each one of these columns has 5 chapters in it because I currently have that links per column set to 5. However, when I change that to 4, we're going to see 5 columns with 4 settings each inside. Okay, so after the 4th column, it kind of drops down to the next one there. It's a little unsightly once it starts filling up more and more, but I would say definitely, a little bit of math is involved there. I have 20 elements. 20 divided by 5 is 4, so it's going to be 4 columns there. Okay, then we have a secondary navigation, phone number, fax number, all these little check boxes. Let me go ahead and show you what that's about. So I'll just enable the secondary navigation here. And the district name and district slogan is actually pertaining to district name is Cyberschool 2.0, and the slogan is just making information technology work for you. And I'll show you where those are configured in just a moment, but let me save this. Okay, so with secondary navigation, you'll see I have this orange bar here up top. This is a secondary navigation, as we call it. And now watch what happens when I configure these 3 settings, the phone number, fax number, and address. Okay, so that the address is shown there, and then the phone number and fax number as well. And if you'll notice, those are actually the contact information. Let me pull up the site configuration. In the school setup, you'll see it's the phone number, fax number is currently empty, address line, etc. So before, this site title and this site slogan is actually being pulled from the site title here and the meta description that goes along with this here, making information technology work for you. You'll see making information technology work for you. If I just go ahead and change that, say information technology to better the future or something. Save that. And let's go ahead and just refresh ourselves. And now you'll see information technology to better the future. Okay, all I did was change the meta description. Information technology work. Oops. Okay, looks a little different. I'll have to change that later, but oh, it's capital W. Hmm, capital W. Okay, I'll get it fixed later. But back into primary navigation, we have things like custom logo and custom school name. Don't worry about these too much. If you don't understand what those are, it's perfectly fine. Um, most of the times those aren't even set. I'm not even certain that those are working the way I think they're working. So we're just going to move back over to styles. And you saw me come over to the styles before, and this is things like the colors that are in the primary navigation. You'll see site title color there and site slogan color, so that's orange and black. And you'll see the site title, Cyberschool 2.0 is orange, and the slogan is black. Then main navigation background color set to orange. You'll see main navigation background. This background bar here is orange. Navigation text color. So this was set to light, but I think with mega menus, it's currently fixed to that black color there. Um, so I don't think this one really matters with mega menus. Then main navigation hover color. So you'll see when I hover over one of these, uh, that also might be fixed for mega menus. Drop down text color set to white and drop down background color. Hmm. Okay, so some of these you really have to look at. Let me go ahead and change this back to initial or default, and then we can configure those. Okay, so Now let's go over these. So we have navigation text color set to black, main navigation hover color. So when I hover over one of the main navigation items, it gets that blue color to it. Drop down text color. So this is the color of each drop down element there set to white. Drop down background color. So this is the color of the background in the drop down. So it's currently set to blue. And then drop down hover background color is set to orange. So whenever I hover over an element, it'll get an orange color to it. Okay, so that's what those are referring to. Let me set this back to mega. So just about every aspect, you can change the color around that goes with it. Okay, then dimensions. Don't worry about dimensions really. It's set to container, but there's also container fluid, and those are just different CSS properties that are being attached to this menu here. But it's perfectly fine if you just leave that with container fluid. You won't really notice any difference. Okay, with basic settings, we have navigation font size. So this is currently set to 17, and you'll see the font size of these home, training videos, administrator video outline, and even these sub-elements have a font size of 17. And I can increase or decrease that from this navigation font size. Okay, don't worry about custom CSS. Site slogan font size. So it's currently set to 2. However, it's not 2 pixels. You'll see site slogan font size modifier set to EMs instead of pixels. PX is pixels, EMs. I don't really know what EM stands for or what it references. I know they're different scale on than pixels. So you'll see this is definitely a lot larger than 2 pixels there. Um, so I would say play around with those settings a little bit. Each one of the text that you see in the header, you'll see it has a modifier, whether it's EMs or pixels, and then the max height for the logo image set to 200. And as we scroll more down, we have things like navigation padding. So this is the padding between each navigational element, currently set to 10, so that's not much. I set it just so that all these will fit onto one line. I think if I increase it a little more, it'll probably stretch onto 2 lines. Okay, so I would definitely say, play around with these settings here, find out what you like. Definitely a lot of trial and error unless you're really web design savvy and you kind of just understand right off the bat. Okay, these settings here deal with the secondary nav. That's that top orange bar that we have. So if you want to change the background color for that, you'll see it's currently set to orange. The text color is currently set to black. Or the padding, if you want to increase or decrease the space between each element in here, you can do that by this padding option. Okay, lastly, we have background, and you'll be seeing this background a lot with the different settings that we have available. With this background in particular, this is things like, if you want to change the background type, currently a solid color, that white color there. But let me go ahead and change that to gradient, and you'll see the secondary color is orange, and that's for gradients. So you'll see it kind of go from white to orange to the right. So it's going to start out white, and then it's going to move orange. Let me go ahead and save. Okay, so you'll see it starts out white, and as it goes more to the right, it gets more and more orange, kind of blends there. Okay, and it's not just with this one, it's all the way up here as well. But let me go ahead and change that again. Okay, we also have an image if there's an image you'd like to place in there, or an image with a gradient as well if that's something you'd like to do. You can change the direction if you want it moving to the top, so it would start at white on the bottom and move upwards into an orange color, to bottom, which is white from the top, and move orange to the bottom, or to the left is white on the left, and then as it moves to the left, it goes orange there. Let's go ahead and keep that to right. This background image is if you want to place an image. So if you set this to image, this background image will be the image that's placed in the background. Background image size just deals with how that image is going to fit, if it's going to cover the entire area, if it's just going to leave it up to the browser, contained within the area, things like that. Okay, then an overlay opacity. So opacity is basically how transparent this background is going to be. Um, if you set it to 1, you're going to see its full visibility. Set it to 0.5, you're going to see it kind of faded a little bit, and then set to 0 is going to be completely invisible. Okay, let me go ahead and save these. All right, next we're going to be talking about the uh, mobile navigation settings. All right, let's start with the mobile navigation. And mobile navigation settings, um, is essentially what they are is, how the navigation works on mobile devices. You probably won't be seeing this setting here, and if you are, we recommend you don't really mess with it. Um, it's essentially whenever you happen to go to, let me go ahead and pull this up and inspect. Um, whenever you happen to see a mobile, like your site on mobile, like this, um, it's this open menu here, and you'll see when I click open menu. You'll see, it kind of pulls up the menu as it was whenever I was viewing it normally. And let's see, we have training videos, which has a drop down. Okay, and this is all the drop downs that was there for that. So essentially, that mobile navigation settings are configuring what happens whenever your site is being viewed on a mobile device. And so let me go ahead and pull those back up and show it's fresh. Or Okay, so essentially mobile navigation, there's not really anything you can change here but the styles. Um, if you want to change the background color, you see the background color was black and the text was white whenever I viewed it. If you want to use your theme colors, you have to, um, toggle this on and then save it, and then those themed colors will be chosen for you. However, without theme colors here, I can just open up like a color picker and then change that if I wanted to. Change that, say the background colors is pink color or something like that. I would just say be careful because these don't have like a revision to them. If you change this to something you don't like, there's no going back to the color it was before, really. Okay, and as I scroll down, you'll see I have some more settings here. Background type, if I want to change the background, give that, say, an image instead of that black color or a gradient, just like we saw with the primary navigation, that's also available to me. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to exit out. I didn't make any changes to this. Okay, but that's mobile navigation settings. I would say take a look at those. Maybe just change around the colors if you're unhappy with the colors that are there. But otherwise, don't really mess with what's going on in there. All right, next we're going to be going over slideshow settings. Okay, let's talk about the slideshow settings. And if you're unfamiliar with slideshows in Cyberschool, it's perfectly fine. I'm just going to be going over the settings. And so, just what we're seeing in here. Currently, this one is disabled. Let me go ahead and enable that, and I'll save. Okay, and then let me go ahead and just create a rudimentary um, slideshow here. So I'm going to create a gallery. Um, Training gallery. Make sure it's shared publicly or else if you won't be able to use it in a slideshow. Go to pictures. All right, let's just take these. Okay, then refresh. Now on slideshow settings, you see training gallery there. So let me go ahead and save this. So we have some images. Okay. So these slideshow settings, excuse me, you'll see we have the title, which is just the title of the settings there. Nobody's going to see that title but you. In terms of layout, default is the actual slideshow. Video is actually going to be if you want a video in your slideshow instead. So this setting, essentially what's going on with this slideshow or this video setting is if you would rather have a video playing whenever somebody visits your site, we can accommodate for that. We just ask that you send the video to us so that we can optimize it and actually get this placed into it for you. videos are actually really large in size, and so they actually slow down the responsiveness. That's why we ask that you send it to us first before you actually go on filling up this video URL. It's not the same as just throwing the uh, youtube.com/embed or anything like that. It's actually a, a special, like unique URL that we typically provide for you. Okay, but just leaving that as default. We have number of images to show, which is, let me zoom in here. How many images are going to be sliding throughout this slideshow here? It goes up to 25. Anything after 25 slows down your responsiveness. So you might see, page unresponsive or something like that. 25 is typically the cap there. So I would say, choose your favorite 25 and then go ahead and place those into the gallery to be shown. Then we have image order set to new. So all the newest images that you upload will be displayed first. We also have random, which is the general kind, which is you know, the images will be kind of shuffled around or randomly chosen so that every time you refresh, it's a different set of images. We also have oldest, so all the oldest are shown first. So as you upload new images to the gallery, um, they'll be displayed last in the slideshow. Okay, and you've already seen this before with slideshow settings. These are all the albums that are currently publicly shared, so they can be used in a slideshow. And you can select more than one. I currently have one, but you can just check mark all the ones that you want to use in the slideshow. And let's not worry about the video fit. That'll be set for you if you want to have a video. Okay, but then we have things like button background color, button text color, button background hover color, and button text hover color. So if you happen to have a button on one of your images, and I'll show you in just a moment, this is just setting the colors for those. Genuinely, whenever you want to configure something like that, let me open up that gallery again. I'll select an image and then right click and say edit. Okay, so if you have a link title and link URL available, I believe it'll be displayed as a button, and that's what those colors are configuring. Description is actually the caption that goes along with this. So I would say fill this out if you'd like captions, and we'll be discussing captions in just a moment. Okay, but then we have dimensions, and these dimensions are completely changeable by you. If you're not happy with these dimensions, you can just go ahead and say 1600 instead. You can uh, just type in whatever dimensions you like there. But genuinely, and I'll say this pretty loosely, but genuinely, if your images have these dimensions, I would say at the very least height, they should be fitting pretty well inside the slideshow. You shouldn't be experiencing any distortion or chopping unless they're resized to be these dimensions. And so what I mean is we can go into our file system. Let me go ahead and pull up a picture here. Just open it in Paint. So this is just opened up in Paint, and I can resize this, say, set it in pixels to 550, and you'll see the horizontal is how wide it is, 550 by 1100. It doesn't look half bad, but that's how it's actually going to appear in the slideshow. So I would say definitely, you know, um, at least have the height be the same, this vertical here, and allow the image to maintain the aspect ratio so that the width will actually configure itself according to the height. No, don't save. Okay, and again, those are configurable by you. Then we have basic settings like the button font size. Again, if you want to have a link displayed as a button, you can configure the font size here. Background size is actually a very useful setting here. Set to cover. This is just default, so you'll see the images in the slideshow are actually covering the slideshow section, the entire 1750 by 550. This isn't actually 1750 though. It's just a rather large setting. I can decrease that and you'll see it actually start to not really decrease, but around like 1200 or whatever the actual screen size is. That's when it'll actually see any changes made. But let me go ahead and change this to say contain. and you're going to see a dramatic difference in the images there. Okay, so now you see the images are actually contained within the slideshow here. So they have their normal width, I believe, or I believe it actually shrunk down to be more resolute inside this. But let's go ahead and try a different setting, auto. So what auto will do is it'll actually leave it up to the browser to fit the images inside the slideshow. So it may look different depending on whatever browser you're using, but you'll see, yeah, some blurriness, some pixelation there, because that image is much larger than the actual slideshow there. So it's kind of like keeping the images to have their own dimensions within the slideshow. But that is actually with unset. So unset will actually keep the images to have their own dimensions and set them inside the slideshow. So I see it looks a lot, it looks very much like this, the same thing. Okay, then we have 100%, 100% is the last one. And this is essentially going to stretch the images to fit 100% wide and 100% tall within the slideshow there. So this is where you might actually see um, some results, some stretching so that it fits perfectly. So yeah, this is definitely being stretched, definitely being stretched, definitely being stretched. Okay, so let me go ahead and set that back to cover. Okay, then we have transition effect. This is basically how it'll slide to the next image. By default, it's set to slide, so it's just sliding to the next one. Then there's also fade, if you'd like it to fade to the next image, or cube. Cube is there's no real way to describe it. It's just gotta show you. So now you'll see it's actually like placed into a cube and just sliding. Not really sliding, but kind of flipping to the next one. Okay, there's also cover flow. Let's go ahead and show you what that's about. So, okay, so you see it uh, kind of fly in actually. Okay, and the last one is, oops, just flip, just a genuine flip, like flipping a page on a book. Okay, so I'm gonna set that back to, I like fade. Okay, then background position horizontal and background position vertical. So to imagine this, imagine that the entire screen that you're seeing is an actual image. So background position horizontal and vertical will actually place the focal point inside the center, and then from there it'll take the actual dimensions, the 1750 wide and 550 from the actual image, and those are changeable. So for horizontal, let's say left center. So on the horizontal, it'll go left and then center, and then 1750 wide, and then 550 horizontal or tall, or bottom left, so bottom left around here, so 1750 wide or 550 tall. Okay, so this is really useful if you have images that are, the focus of the images are like um, top center. If you're taking an image where you kind of have a lineup of people, people are just lined up one by one, and you just want to get their faces, you can just do top center so that it'll grab 1750 wide and then 550 tall. And then, if it was center, it would be, you might see some head chopping or something like that. Okay, custom CSS we can ignore. Just ignore what you're seeing in here. This is just some custom stuff added for the mobile view of slideshows. Okay, then we have show captions if you'd like captions on your images. Again, those are set in the description field of the image. So you can say if you want them placed on the bottom or custom placed, which is what these are that you're seeing. So if setting this to custom will be 44% from the top, so let's see, this is about halfway, so about right here, and then 20% from the right, so it'll be right about here exactly. So what this is going to do is it's going to actually place the caption box. Let me X out of this. So that's about 50%, 44%, and about 20% from the right. Okay, so about right here is where the caption box is going to appear. And those are again configurable down in this caption, say 50% from the top, or just say bottom, and then it'll actually place the caption right here down at the bottom, like right below the slideshow. Okay, then we have enable auto slide. If that's something you want to do, just so that it slides by itself. The slide delay in seconds, so every 5 seconds the image will slide, or every 1 second, so you'll see it kind of slide pretty quickly. Uh, let's go back to 5 though. Okay, and lastly we have background. This one doesn't really matter for the slideshow because for the most part the image is actually going to be what's going to be shown to the user. If you want to configure this, and again you might not see a lot, you'll see background color set to this dark color, which is just black. And so that's why in the background you're seeing just that black color. But yeah, that's just about everything with this slideshow settings. And then next we can talk about quick icon settings. Okay, now let's talk about the quick icon settings. And with the quick icon settings, let me go ahead and just enable these. Click Save. And this is what we see here. These are just temporary icons. Some of these actually go places like this YouTube one, but these are configurable over in the site configuration. Let me go ahead and just go to that. This icon navigation here, this little cursor hitting the blue button. You can select and edit these, change the icon, change the link or the name, as well as add new ones if you'd like to, or rearrange them just by dragging these around. But for now, let's just go over the settings. So we have a title, which is just the title of the settings there. Only you're seeing that, just like with the slideshow. We also have the layout, if this is stacked or default. Now default is actually, let me go ahead and show you. This is what default looks like. These are just still stacked here, but I can change that by changing this icons per row to say 2. Now you'll see 2 icons in a row and 2 icons in a row. Or 3, which is going to look pretty strange. All right, and we have an outline to this as well because I have this show border around icons. So let me change that back to 2. And I remove the border. These are just white here. Okay, so those are the basic settings. Now over in styles, again, we have things like colors. If I want to change the text color, the text, this test icon or bell schedule there. The background color, let's go ahead and change that to primary so that the background is going to be blue so that we can see that a little better. The icon color, we can change that to light so that it's going to be white. The text hover color, so whenever I hover over an icon, the text will change to that blue color. The icon background hover color, so whenever I hover over this, this should change to, let's say, a blue color. Typically, you'll want this to be different from the icon background color, just so it looks different. So I'll just say secondary. The icon hover color, so whenever I hover over this, what's the actual color of the icon? And then the color of the border around icons. So before you saw like that white kind of, or that blue kind of ring going around this, and that's configured, the color is actually configured from here, if I want to change this. But let's go ahead and save and see what the new icons look like. Okay, and then hover over it, and you see the background gets that orange color there. Okay, then we have things like dimensions, and just changing the height if I want this to be much larger. Again, we have more basic settings. So if we want to say give this some padding here, change around the module padding, which is just how much space is between each um, icon there, or actual module actually. Module padding is kind of ambiguous, so don't really worry about that too much. The icon content, if I want them centered, let's see, justify icon content. No real changes there. So it's probably not something that we can see um, with our current settings. Yeah, which is perfectly fine. So you don't really need to worry about that one either. Then the text font size. So how large I would like this text here, test icon or bell schedule. Again, animation or custom CSS. Don't worry about these too much. And lastly, we have background. If you remember from before, we had the gradient going across or setting around an image. Let's go ahead and set an image there. And we'll just save. Okay, so now we have an image in the background there. It's like a stock photo there. Okay, so that's just about everything with this quick icon settings here. And next we can talk about the mission settings. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the mission settings. And let's go ahead and get this enabled and we'll see what that looks like. So this is the mission. It just says mission there. This lorem ipsum text there and a superintendent name as well. Let's go ahead and open up mission settings and take a look at the settings. So as always, we have the title, which again is just the title of the settings. You're free to change that to like our mission or our vision if that's something you want to do. We have the layout set to MOTD, and that stands for message of the day. So we're seeing this essentially this message there, and this little dot there, which is actually the image that is placed there. So let me go ahead and choose a new image to place there. Mm, let's place this one here, and let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so now we're seeing that image populate there. So this is really useful for like a superintendent's message. You can place an image of the superintendent there. Call this superintendent's message rather. I think the title is actually what's changed there. Intendant's message. And then the actual text is going to be what's placed into that. And we could just type over this. But let me go ahead and save. All right. So yeah, the title actually does change the actual title of that. Okay, then an image alt text for ADA compliance, and this is a picture of Bane, Mike Diaz's dog, our project manager. Let's say Bane image. And then this option to show bully or tip-off links. So this is really for if you would like to display a link to your bully and tip-off forms. Um, These are modules that we have designed for you where students can either report bullying or just send a general suspicion report if they see someone acting kind of shady around campus or they see someone kind of pacing around your campus and they kind of just want to report it to you. Okay, then we have a button that's available as well, and that's that superintendent's name button here. Currently not going anywhere. I click it and I go nowhere. Okay, but you can configure, what the text of that is, where that's going. So we can say Google, HTTP, google.com. Let's change the text color to orange. The button color can stay primary or secondary, primary. Hover color is white. Hover text color is black. Border color is blue. And the button opacity, basically, how visible or invisible this is. Okay, and then this, whenever I control click, takes me to Google. Okay, then we have things like in styles, again, dimensions, how tall this module is, 325 pixels. The height modifier is in pixels. The image height, so this image is 250 pixels. The image width, 250 pixels. The content width currently set to container and container fluid available. Those just apply different CSS properties to uh, this section here. And by CSS properties, I mean just how this design looks. It might change the padding, which is spacing. It might change, the colors, or it might change how tall it is. Just different design aspects that'll be uh, the different design aspects that'll be configured with this. Okay, then title font size, 36 pixels. The body font size, 15 pixels. So if you want to increase how large this text is, just change this body font size. And as well as button font size, 14 pixels. I think the general actually has that configured. Well, no, it's just the colors. Okay, so over here, that's where you can actually configure how large the button font size is. Okay, then we have things like colors. If you want to change the title or text color, both set to white right now. Okay, then basic settings, again, animation, custom CSS. We don't need to worry about these. This is just, stuff that, if you kind of configure it, it might break how things look, but I would say just leave them alone if you don't understand them. Okay, background currently set to a solid color, this orange color, but let's go ahead and give this orange to black, and we'll say to the left. So let's get this gradient, and did I set that correctly? Let's see. Nope, I set it to solid color gradient. Okay, so it starts off orange and goes to this black color from right to left. Okay, so this is essentially the mission settings. You'll see I changed it to superintendent's message, but like I said at the start of this video, a lot of these settings will look the same and do basically the same things. It's just what the actual module is configuring. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but every one of these settings configures just below like what's going on with it. So next we're going to talk about the countdown settings. All right, let's talk about the countdown settings. And countdown settings, let's first get this enabled and let's just see what this looks like. So I'll just save that. All right. So now with the countdown, it operates just like a countdown. Um, when I go into countdown settings, I configure the layout. It's currently just one simple layout at right now. The date is the actual day that this countdown is ending. So 5 days from now. The time is the actual time this is ending in about 4 hours from now. And these checkboxes is if I want to display the days, hours, minutes, seconds, or leading zero. Leading zero is just, if you happen to get a number below. Okay, so see here, this leading zero here. Let me go and disable that, and you should just see the 5 and the 3 there. Yep, just 5 and a 3 there. So leading zero is just any number below 10, really, that has a leading zero in front of it. It'll display that. Okay, then we have things like styles. Again, colors, if you want to change the color of the text. The height, um, let's just set that to 400. Actually, 325 I've seen a lot, so let's just keep that at 325. Basic settings include number size, the size of the title, animation and custom CSS like we've always seen, and the label size as well. The label is actually this days, hours, minutes, and seconds there. So if you want to increase the size of those, you can with this label size. And then always, like we've seen before, this background with the background type. If you want a solid color, a gradient, or an image, change around the colors, the gradient direction, the image that goes there if we have an image, and then overlay opacity, etc. Go ahead and save. And you'll see it's much larger now, 325. And yeah, that's just about everything with the countdown. Okay, so in this portion of the video, I want to talk about main content settings. And this is one of those settings that you won't be seeing on your site. I'm seeing it because I'm logged in as an IES on the IES server, and so essentially we had this available to our clients when it was first created, and we found that some people were making changes to this that actually broke their website, and so we removed it. Um, for anyone not on the IS server because it's some of these settings are actually very sensitive, and so we really feel like um, you know if you would like a change made in this main content settings, we'd rather you come to us about it. And so in this portion of the video, I'll be going over what is actually inside this main content settings so that you actually know what we can do with this. So if you'd like a change, you can let us know. So let me go ahead and open this up. And like always, we have the title there. Just change the title of the settings. The layout currently set to default. This is where actually where the site was breaking. If I change this to quick icons and save, I will get an error, and my site will not be able, like refreshing won't help, nothing will help. It actually has to be configured through your actual server and fixed by a programming team. And so I'll keep this on default. Don't worry about quick icons really. Um, if anything, I would say all that really does is just take all of this main content. Main content is this portal that we're seeing, edit layout, add widget, help, and this turquoise area, and just changes it to this their quick icons instead. So then we have side navigation placement, currently set to none. And so let me go ahead and set this to left, and I'll show you what that does. Okay, so now we have this side part here, and then the main content. And let me go ahead and let me just add a left side navigational block. We'll just call it navigation, and I'll give this a calendar. And I got a dump, but it's okay. All right. So now we have navigation and calendar there. And that's exactly what left navigation placement does, or side navigation placement. Let me put that to the right. And there it goes on the right. And I can also set it to none to just remove it completely. Okay, so if you do have left side navigation and you want it removed, let us know and we can remove it for you. We also have custom width for content and left nav with bootstrap values. This is one of those where you don't need to worry about main nav 5 or main 5 nav 5 would be main navigation is 50% and then the side navigation's another 50%. But I'll just leave that for unset. Then we have styles. And over in styles, this is things like custom background, custom 1 background color, custom 1 text color, custom 2 background color, custom 2 text color, left navigation item. Just all these colors pertain to, let me go ahead and add a text box. Okay, so with this text box here, this is set to custom panel, and you'll see custom 1 background color is that blue color, and that's that blue color. Let me go ahead and change that to secondary for orange, and we should see that change to orange now. Okay, let me add another text box and refresh that. Okay, and let me change this one to custom 2. Okay, and then change that custom 2 background color to primary, or actually dark. Let's see, as a black color. Okay, so now that's black. Okay, let me give this a title. We'll just say text box 1. Okay, there it is, text box 1, and text box 2. Okay, and both text colors are white, but that's what these ones are for. Text, custom text 1, let's just say, let's make that dark, and let's make this one primary. So we should see, or actually secondary, we should see them actually flip. Okay, text box 1 is black with orange background, and text box 2 is orange with a black background. Okay, so that's what those colors are for, and typically these are set to your primary and your secondary colors that you chose during when we asked for your design info. Okay, then we have this left side navigation stuff, and this is only if you happen to have side navigation. This just deals with the background color, the text color of each item, the item hover color, the hover text color, container background color, and the title color as well. A lot of colors going on with that left side navigation. Um, it's just, the navigation, the background, the hover, um, the actual titles. Okay, then we have content width currently set to full. Let me set this to container and you'll actually see it compact down. Okay, so now it's more compact, a little bit more spacing on the sides here. Okay, and I'll set this back to full. I like it full screen or full width. Um, just see the content a little bit better. Okay, then we have basic settings. So this is things like padding. If I want more padding, you'll see there's no top padding. That's why it's pushed to the top. There is some bottom padding, so there's some space below right here. No left or so this is header top padding, which is the padding for the headers. And then this general padding here is padding for the content inside. If it's going to be any space either on the left, top, right, or bottom. Okay, then animation and custom CSS. Again, don't worry about these. The header right padding, if this is padding on the right, it doesn't really make sense because it's always on the left anyways. And then header font size. So this size of this header here, this text box 1 is 22. I believe it's in pixels. I don't think that one can be changed. I think it has to be pixels there. Um, EMs would actually be fairly large and actually go outside the bounds of the actual portal header. So it's just stuck on pixels there. Okay, then we have background. And what I like to do with this is set this to an image. And I'm going to go to jiffy.com. And I'm just going to take a cyberspace GIF. Let's say this one here. Let's do a copy link and take the GIF link. And I'll place this in this background image there. And let's see if this works. Okay, so now the entire background, or the background of the main content, is just this GIF that's going on in the background. Let's see if I can make that look a little better with this background image size. Let's set that to auto. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we have a repeat actually. Let's see. We did cover. Let's try contain. Okay, another repeat. 100%, 100%. Okay, that's not very good. Of course, I don't have a lot of space in this main content here. Okay, last one, initial. Okay, again, a repeat. Well, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted to show you that you can place a GIF, or an external source really, but a GIF into this this background image portion to give it kind of like a better look. Let's send that back to solid color. Okay, so that's the main content settings. Now with the actual main content, I'll go over that next actually. Okay, let's actually go over these widgets and this portal that I called it before. Um, with the main content settings, you saw me add these two text boxes and actually configure them. But now I kind of want to talk about what each one is, what each one does, and configuring those to work best for you. And so let's go ahead and um, firstly, let's talk about this turquoise area. So I'll delete these two text boxes. And I have this turquoise areas here, and I'm only seeing that because I'm logged in. If I log out here, I'll just log out. You'll see I don't see that anymore, just that back to top. Okay, let me go ahead and log back in. There's that back to top, and I have the turquoise area. So I can configure that by clicking edit layout right here. Change it to a single panel, so one giant turquoise area to throw widgets into, or T-split, 3 columns or face. And then these ones here are a bit more complicated, double, triple column or maze. You'll see I have a full one, then 3 columns, and then 2 columns, and 3 columns, and another full one. So yeah, it gets pretty complicated the more you scroll down. But I'll just keep it simple with the single panel there. Okay, then I can go ahead and click Add Widget to actually start populating this. And let me just take this time to actually reiterate. This is a portal page. You can think of a portal page as an actual sci-fi portal. And, actual sci-fi portals, they connect one area with another area. Basically, they connect 2 points together. This portal here will connect this home page with every single module available in Cyberschool. If it's your calendar module, your news module, blog module, bookings module, jobs module, forums, uh, um, what else is there? Podcasts. And then we have what I call like standalone widgets. So everything, every module I just mentioned, bookings, jobs, forums, news, calendar, I already said blogs, podcasts, you can add as many of those as you'd like, and it will always display the same information because it's all pulling from the same source. Now you can add what I call standalone widgets, such as the countdown, text box, accomplishments, links, not quick icons actually, slideshows. Those are all standalone widgets, by which I mean, they operate the opposite of those module widgets, where you can add as many countdowns, as many accomplishments, as many links, iframes, videos, slideshows, weather. Well, yeah, weather, I guess, but social networks, probably not social networks, but those widgets you can add as many as you'd like and just configure them to display different information. You can have a countdown for graduation, a countdown for prom, a countdown for SATs, ACTs, or finals, and they'll all display uh, those specified information. So let's just go through these and uh, just adding new widgets. I'll have another video for going over what these widgets actually do later. But for now, let's go ahead and open up the text box here. You can single click and choose that next, or just double click to select the widget. And with text boxes, you can either browse for any page that you've already created or create a new page altogether. Um, I'm actually going to create a new page. I don't think I have any pages I'd like to show with this training video. Okay, so typically your widgets will have these three buttons here, this little gear symbol, a little pencil, and a cancel button on it. The cancel button will just delete the widget altogether. The pencil we saw with the main content will actually configure how the layout of this widget is, excuse me. If it's a default blue, basic, basic but borderless, titleless, so you can add a title but that title will be gone, titleless and edgeless, boxless, custom panel or custom to panel. Then we have background transparency. So let me set this to 5% and see if you can spot the difference. Okay, so if you haven't spotted it yet, the background of this is actually, it's not white anymore. I mean it is, but it's only 5% white. Uh, Let me go ahead and configure that again to say 100%. Okay, now it's completely white for this background. So you can change the background transparency as well. And then with this little gear symbol, this is actually going to configure what's inside of this widget here. Let me go ahead and open this up. And you'll see, okay, and you'll see this editor pops up here. And in this editor here, I'll have another video going over this editor more in depth, but you can just add basic content, images, links, tables, iframes, accordions, numbered lists, alignments, bold, italics, underline, source. Again, I'll be going over this later. Um, However, every single widget that you add will have different settings. For example, let me add a new widget here. I'll add a countdown widget. And we've already talked about the countdown module, but it operates the exact same way with the widget, where I specify a date that this is ending, a time this is ending. I could change around the styles as well, just for this one here. Okay, but with calendar, I can't configure or add to the calendar widget. You'll see there's currently no events to display because I don't have any events on this site here, but I can't click into the calendar and start adding new events to this. To add events to this calendar here, I actually have to go to district events and say add a date for the 25th. And I'll say training event there, or training events, that's fine. Okay, there's that training events. Let me refresh. And there it appears in the calendar widget. Okay, so again, adding a calendar widget will not actually, it'll not create a new calendar. It'll not allow you to create new events from the widget. You have to actually go to this district events calendar module. This here's the module. This is the widget. The widget is actually pulling from the module. So just to reiterate, I can add another calendar module or calendar widget, excuse me. It's easy to get mixed up. And you see they're displaying the same information. However, with this, we can change the layout to say slide view, and it changes the display, but it's still the same information. Let's change it to month view. Okay, changes the display, but it's the same information. Okay, so the countdown is, again, what I refer to as a standalone widget. As many countdowns as you like. Let me add another countdown here. Okay, same there, but let's increase this by 3 days. Okay, and they're different. Two countdowns look exactly the same, but one has different settings than the other, and you can add as many of those as you'd like. However, with the calendar we saw before, doesn't matter how I configure it, it's always going to display the same information because the countdowns don't pull from a singular source, but the calendar does. And the same is true for news, pulls from the same source, forum, jobs, podcasts, department list, contact info, bookings. And I encourage you to play around with these and figure out how you'd like to actually have this set up. And let me go ahead and show you something else we can do with this. Let's say T-split A, which is one single panel with two columns. And then from here, I can actually drag these around and reorder the information if I wanted to. So you can absolutely configure your home page pretty dynamically. Let me go ahead and log out. And this is what it actually looks like. We have that text box here. It's currently empty. There's nothing inside of it. Upcoming events, and then to calendar. So typically, the logged in view won't look that great because we have all the kind of all the noise with the configurations and the settings flying around. Even the turquoise area is a little unsightly. So I would encourage you to definitely play around with how you'd like this to look, and log out occasionally to see um, how your changes are currently looking with your site. Um, I did all of this, and it took me a good amount of time, but the good amount of time I spent uh, explaining what each thing does, but ultimately only about 5 minutes to make it look this nice. And so yes, I encourage you heavily to play around with the number of widgets. I will have another video up about explaining what each widget does, and then as well as getting this text editor down and formatting your content, things like that. But for the sake of this video, keeping things short, I'll just move on to accomplishments next. Okay, so let's talk about the accomplishment settings, or this accomplishments module, and let's get this enabled and saved. So the accomplishments module is really just used for bragging about your site. You'll see these two here, 2000 students, 2000 students. Let me reopen the accomplishment settings, and we can show title, save, and it just says accomplishments there. So now I can configure this title. Let's see, our school achievements, exclamation point. I don't think I spelled that correctly. Achievements, like that. Okay, so now it says our school achievements. Change the layout, or actually it's set to default. A description, it just says our accomplishments. We can show the description as well. Our accomplishments right there. So we're going to have to configure how that looks in the Styles tab. The text color, icon color, let's see, icon name color, title color, icon value color. Doesn't look like I can configure that, but that's perfectly fine. Let's actually refrain from showing the description, and let me make note of that. Okay, so just like before, we have colors, we have dimensions, basic settings, and background for this accomplishments portion here. But now we have this list one here. And this list is actually going to help you configure what is actually being displayed with these two icons. And you can add more just by clicking the plus sign. But let me configure this thing. Students, let's say there's 1639, and this is indeed a number, but you can change this to currency if you want to display a dollar amount, a percentage if you want to say like, 80% of students graduate. That's probably a horrible percentage, but um, essentially you can change the mode or the type of value that you're displaying. So here, I'll say change this one to courses. I'll say 64 courses, and that's a number. Let's add one more just for fun. Let's say fundraiser. And then the fundraiser raised 16,000 currency. Let's say, and let's go ahead and you can rearrange these icons here by clicking these arrows. So I'm moving this one down. We'll move courses up and students down, and they switch. You can also configure the icon that's being placed here. Let's say this one is students, so let's look for a student one. Let's just say that one there. Click save. This one is courses, so let's look for something like a book. And it just deals with your personal preference, really. You don't have to use a book, you don't have to use a person. You can choose any icon, really. Um, I just like to be a little bit more uniform. Let's just say that one. And lastly, for fundraiser, let's see if we can find some sort of currency. Um, I'm not seeing anything. Hmm. All right, so nothing. All right, let's just leave that like that. Not sure what's going on there. Okay, so you'll see 64 courses, 1639 students, and then fundraiser does not have an icon. It really should. Let's just put this one here. Okay, and you'll see, this is the actual number, and it has the comma after the third, and then comma after the third for the actual money one there as well. So this is just how you configure this accomplishments one. We are updating them constantly, so you might have seen a few bugs here and there. I've marked them down, and programming will be resolving those. So it'll be fully functional uh, whenever you happen to configure your achievements. Okay, so next we'll go over the information slider. Okay, so now we'll go over information slider. And information slider is one of those modules that, a lot of people like it. It looks really nice, but it also gives the most grief. So I've just enabled it, and already you're seeing training events there. That's the event that I added when we went over the actual content portion. Um, and essentially what this information slider is doing is it's set up to connect to this events one. So essentially it's like a calendar module or a calendar widget, excuse me. So essentially it's acting like a calendar widget. Let me just open up these settings. And we have two layouts, default and minimal. I like to keep it as default. Minimal, there's not really like much of a change with minimal. Um, so I'll just keep it as default. The maximum number of items to show is currently set to 16. So this is going to look ahead. It doesn't say directly, but it'll actually look ahead 30 days, almost a whole month. So this might go to November 23rd, about 30 days forward, and grab the first 16 uh, events and place them into this slider here. And this is configurable if I want to say grab the first 20 events or anything like that. Number of links displayed at once is how many links are going to be displayed in this slider here. Number of links to move on a slide. So this slider is as a slider, it'll actually, after some time, it'll actually slide to the next event. or the next few events. In this case, next two events, but let's say the next event or the next three events. Okay, we can turn on or turn off the automatic slider. So with it turned off, it's up to the user to actually click the arrow or slide this along. But we'll just turn it on so it slides automatically. Maximum days old news articles to display. This is actually very strange. It, there's a lot of words here, and the words make it confusing, but it's also ambiguous. Um, so, you know, I'm also confused with this myself. Um, it leads me to believe that this is actually how you configure how far ahead it's looking. However, the days old portion of this is what's getting me. It makes me think that, this is looking, behind 30 days. So from October 23rd, it'll pull events 30 days prior to the date. Okay, then we have show title, and that's why we're seeing training events there. And then data source is actually where it's pulling from. So either the events module or the calendar module, or the news module as well. So I can go to, uh, let's say, district news and pull these news events as well. So let's go ahead and change that to news. And now you're seeing news events, test 1, test 2, test 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the slider settings again. Then over in styles, it's everything we've seen before. Colors, the title color, text color, or overlay color. So there is an overlay here. You'll see it's not like a full white color. It's actually has some darkness to it, and that's because the overlay is currently set to black. Okay, then we have dimensions. This first height here is the height of the actual module. Then we have the image height, so the actual height of the image is there. Okay, over in basic settings, these are things like the slide speed. So this is how fast this is going to slide, not at what rate, but how fast. Basically, if this is going to zoom across or if this is going to slowly just slide to the next one. And then slide move interval is the rate at which it slides. The higher you increase this, the faster it should slide. So this is currently set to 1. So this is going to, slide and then take some time, take some time, take some time, and then slide again, and then take some time, etc. Okay, then we have content text size. It doesn't really matter, really. There's no content being displayed here. Typically, this was designed to, include the title and then some of like the first part of this news article. But that's currently not the case here. Then we have overlay opacity, and this is the overlay color set to dark. The overlay opacity is basically how transparent that darkness is. So currently set to 0.3. 0.5 will make it more dark. That'll make it completely dark. That'll make it invisible. Okay, let's say 0.3 again. As always, we have custom CSS. Don't worry about that. And then the title text size currently set to 32 pixels. And that's just 32 pixels right here. This title text size here. And as always, we have background. If we want to change the background color, give it a gradient, give it an image, change the overlay opacity. So yeah, this is essentially the information slider. If you have more questions about this, we can go more in depth about that in a training session. But this is just generally how all the settings are configured. So next we'll talk about actually the footer because there's another mission statement here, or mission module here. And that's only because if you have mission used and you want to use message of the day as well, we offer you two mission modules. So next we'll be going over the footer. All right, let's talk about the footer settings here. So let me open this up. And you'll see the title is just the title of the settings. The layout is currently set to centered. Let's set this to default and see what that looks like. Okay, so default, there's no logo. It just has the name of the school, the address, contact information, legal information, privacy policy, sitemap, and login. Let me disable this information slider. Okay, so legal information is just terms condition, Privacy policy is a privacy policy. Sitemap is for search engines. Essentially, a search engine will be looking for this sitemap here, and if I look at that, you'll see it get this weird XML file. It doesn't make any sense to me personally. However, to a search engine, that's everything that is needed to be known for a search engine to index your site. And so, essentially, the sitemap is used for a search engine, not for us, not for your viewers, really. Then we have an additional login here, and this is essentially just a way to log in without that gray bar. So if you would like that gray bar removed and you remove it, there's still a way to log in the footer here with the layout set to default. Let me change this to image and video. Okay, so now we have the logo, the name, the slogan, the contact info, and this space here, and you'll see legal information, privacy policy, and sitemap move to the bottom there. But this space there is for a video. If I want to change the place an image or a video there, so let me go ahead and let's see, my Explorer Modern image. Let's just place this image here, get link. And I believe it's the entire thing. Let's copy that, paste that in there, and let's see. Okay, so it's rather large, a very large image, but that image is placed there. And maybe we can configure that. I believe it's expecting a video actually. We can place a video there. However, it's just going to be something like a HTTPS um, www.youtube.com/embed/, and then on the end here is the video ID, some nonsensical uh, string at the end there. Um, Essentially, it'll place that YouTube video in the footer portion here. Maybe I place the image there, custom footer image save. Oh, so that's if I want to change the actual logo associated with that. Okay, so there's a lot of things we can do here. Let's change it to slice footer and see what that's about. Okay, so all we have here is the school name, the contact information, and then legal information, privacy policy, and sitemap. There is no login here, so the footer has been sliced. And then centered is what I had at the start of this section, where I have the logo, I have the school name, slogan, contact information, and that's all I need there. I can change the image there, I believe. So now it's just a little image that I placed there. Okay, we also have this enable edit box. I'll click save and I'll show you what that's about. So I don't think this is for centered. Let's try default. Okay, so we have edit bottom box here, which is just an additional content area. Let me throw in testing there. Click save. Okay, now we just have testing there. So it's just additional content to place um, into the footer. Okay, let me go ahead and disable that. And then move school info below logo. So I believe that's also for certain settings. And then enable school name is the reason why this Cyberschool 2.0 site name is showing there. Okay, then as always, we have styles where we have colors, changing the color of the text box or the school title, the contact info, extra links, which is the terms and conditions of privacy policy or sitemap, and the extra links hover, dimensions of the video, dimensions of the image, um, then basic settings like the school name font size, the address modifier if it's set in pixels or EMs, the school slogan, so just sizing of the elements basically. Um, Feel free to look through these and change these. Typically, you'll just leave these alone though. And then the background as well, changing the background type to a solid color or a gradient or an image. Okay, so that's just about everything with the footer. Again, styles, we've seen it everywhere so far. Next, or lastly, we're going to talk about copyright. All right, let's talk about copyright settings. So there isn't much to really show here. Essentially, we can enable or disable this copyright. Let me disable that and show you. So that's just gone there. Let's enable that. Okay, you can change the title, which is just the title of the settings. The layout, only one is default, which is just legal information privacy policy sitemap. Show extra links. Let me disable that and show you. So now it just says the Alex dev copyright, and that's just IES information. We also have this edit bottom box, which is again just additional content to place into that bottom portion there. Let me toggle those back on. And then styles, again, we just have server info, text color. The server info is, let's see, it's just Alex Dev. That's the server that's currently on. You might be seeing like a IES-web v2 or something like that. Um, it's going to be like a IES web v2 dash and then some number. It could be 4, 5, 3, or 2. That number on the end there is the server you're currently on. I think it goes up to like 6. Um, but that really helps us out in tech support and as well as our programmers to know what server you're currently on. Um, um, and that helps us out because it helps us kind of triangulate where the issue is coming from and if it will affect uh, other clients. Um, and typically, with this server, there is no genuine way to really switch the server you're on, to my knowledge. Um, essentially, your server is only really there for us, for our benefit. We might ask you what's your server number, and we just mean they'll go to this copyright portion and just tell us that last number. Okay, but we can change the colors around. Basic settings, the font size modifier, and background like we saw before. Changing around the solid color or gradient or an image there. But that's just about everything with this home page here. I understand it's a lot, and I understand that you may not be seeing some of this. Um, I will be going over different elements, different widgets, different modules, different ways to configure the text box in later videos. But for this particular video, I just kind of want to go over what you can do with this home page. We've seen just about everything, every way to design these, except for, of course, the top navigation, configuring what goes inside of here. But that's going to be in a later video, so I encourage you to continue watching. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact us here at IES or at Cyberschool, as you probably know. Um, so yeah, we look forward to further assisting you and you know continue watching the other videos if you want to know more. All right, have a great day.